Back with more Walking Dead. This is episode 12 of season 11. Very excited as always to see what's going to happen next. I think with this episode we approach the halfway point of part 2 of this season, I think. So it's kind of flying by, really. We are this will be the halfway point of the season, I believe. So final stretch now. But I'm very intrigued to see where the focus is going to shift to next. Very focused on Eugene last time. Kind of dealing with, revelations about Steffi and stuff, surprising not that many people, I suppose. She wasn't the real Stephanie, the one that he'd been spending that time with, but now we know who was the real one. So I don't know if that's going to be something they explore immediately now, or if we're going to be focusing on other characters or not. We'll have to wait and see, but either way, I'm excited, so let's get into the next one.
But then my brother got involved, and he was not happy.
Is he ever happy?
You seem so happy. So I kept my head down. I'm Max. There is no Stephanie. That was my mother's.
Sorry.
Pamela Milton. A pleasure.
The most evil-looking woman alive.
What'd you do before all this? Didn't matter.
I remember them, very early seasons, trying to guess what Daryl's job was.
How I remember.
Oh shit, you knew him.
I think I've seen enough here.
Probably could have gone better.
You're lucky.
Cal did her work. You know something's up.
How did this happen?
Yeah.
Come on, boss, this is good news.
Oh, is she at Oceanside? I feel like we haven't been here in ages.
Hilltop and Maggie have always been there for us. We renewed our mutual protection pact, and I'm gonna honor it.
Right.
If Maggie decides to partner with you, we will too.
They're going to push Maggie then, aren't they? Well, he is anyway.
Stop acting like Alexandria means more to you than it does to me.
Right now, you and I are the same thing. Which means you and I are in the same sinking boat. Is Maggie gonna make this
He does seem like the type to drag people down with him.
Why do you trust these people?
Who says we do? Nor do I ever.
It's true.
Governor Milton proposed that we all go hunting. If you're up for that.
Of course she did. Of course she goes hunting.
I'll go with Maggie and you boys Carol.
Wow. Yeah. Now the mind games begin.
That responsibility keeps me up at night. It's the price of leadership.
But you wouldn't have it any other way because you don't want to lose that.
I'm offering you the same thing your mutual protection pact at Oceanside did. Someone who has your back.
So they have prime opportunity to stab it.
Wait. What did you do?
He knows you too well.
See all those people suffering. Same as me.
Yeah. You'd rather put them first.
Same as me.
Lesser men have been given more and done nothing with it. You are not a lesser man.
Communities that we built are fair.
Commonwealth is
Hey, wait, you drive a nicer car and live in a nicer house than everybody else.
I have more responsibilities than the average worker. A leader has to give her people something to look up to.
Well, I want people to look up to what I've done and what I do, not what I have that they don't.
Cool. Damn. Her way would bring more people, more walkers to them though. More dangerous.
Do you regret coming here?
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame him if he did.
So you like it here? Pretty damn good at everything you do, Rosita.
That is true.
You're excited about the future.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Oh, don't say that. Don't get excited about the future, because then you die.
I was lying to you. About who I was, about Washington, D.C., and
It's a long time ago, Jim.
Yeah. But now he really knows how it felt.
Our home, so long as the flow works.
Talked about this before. You had a bad day.
She wasn't who I thought she was.
Literally.
So much better. You're gonna find your person. She's not there, I promise.
It might still be Max.
Daryl,
Hi.
hey, I was wondering when you come back. Hey.
How
No.
you holding up? Is it okay if we hand out some supplies? We have more than enough. Food, fuel.
Sure. Thank you.
Great.
Taking the
Rock.
first step.
You two, come with me.
Trouble is, we had that flash forward, so something's gonna kind of
Yeah, we're
go
kinda-
wrong. Aww.
They're gonna pass out some food.
That's wholesome as hell.
I guess not all places are as lucky as Alexandria.
Not all places are as lucky as Commonwealth.
Are you coming around?
I wouldn't go that far.
The only reason you're out of your armor is because someone thought it'd be good for appearances. You got your role to play. I got mine.
Oh. He doesn't have much of a life outside of that, I guess.
Serious, Jerry. Pineapple on pizza makes no sense.
Oh boy. Better go well.
Nervous twitch?
Lucky coin.
I had a lucky rabbit's foot.
Oh god. He's gonna be Two-Face, isn't he?
You get out all this.
Power.
Come on, Maggie.
Recognition.
Being able to pick Herschel up from a concert at the Commonwealth. Take him to a doctor's appointment last week. And jump on a boat at Oceanside.
Easier said than done, though. Oh. Just, yeah. I think that man's quite devious. Yeah, that's one way to do it. Could have started with that, buddy. Yeah, it's that side of things she's not quite so sold on, isn't it? Still kind of an imbalance.
Never a dull moment here, is there?
We try.
Everyone okay?
Yeah,
I don't know,
everything's
season
always
8.
intact. The head top's going to pass on your offer.
Can I ask why?
Because, like you said, everything costs something.
Yeah. And she wouldn't know what the cost is until it's too late. You're fine at the other end of the radio, buddy.
I was bruised and confused.
You were pretty damn rude.
I was. Indeed.
I mean,
Well, I don't want you to be getting inside my head.
if anyone should be apologising, I feel like it should be her.
How could you not know? It wasn't me.
Because you didn't tell him?
I just so badly wanted this to be real. And subtle cues escape me sometimes. Anyway.
Love is blind.
never met-
Can I read your novel?
No.
A gumshoe by the name of Steph Portman is caught up in a rollicking international caper trying to avert nuclear disaster and navigate the intricacies of the legal bureaucracies back home.
I mean, obviously.
District Attorney Crut, did you?
Certainly not. That would have surprised exactly no one.
I think the twin scientists ramp up the stakes on the nuclear threat.
That is exactly what I did.
Oh, there is a good connection. That's good.
It's from Judith. Just in case you're making Herschel eat more.
Aww.
I'm leaving, Maggie. Some of the others are coming with me,
Yeah,
and you should too.
they want what the Commonwealth offers. I can't entirely
Be careful,
blame them.
trust. I respect the hell out of you. But I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Less mouths for you to feed now though, Maggie, so might be a bit easier. Hooray.
It's a bold move trying to bring 3 new communities into the fold. I get why something like that would be appealing to you. Someone needs to run them, right? want to try and make it work, fine. But if your job at home starts to suffer, there will be consequences. Commonwealth always comes first.
And that's probably the issue, really. Okay.
Pamela's on board.
Oh
In fact, we're
boy.
gonna bring even more people in. Get ready, Aaron. We're going to remake the world.
This guy's insane. Okay, a pretty good episode overall. I did enjoy, getting to see so many different communities, however briefly, it was actually quite fun. Because, it's normally, if we're lucky, we'll see maybe more than one, main community per episode. But, they kind of, by the very nature of them, travelling and visiting each place, we got glimpses of a lot of the main core locations. And even Oceanside, which doesn't really get that much focus a lot of the time. And I feel like we haven't seen Oceanside in ages. I'm not even sure if you've seen it thus far this season. So it's kind of, again, however briefly, actually revisit that and, remind the audience that it does exist. That was cool. And I do like the idea of, the Commonwealth negotiating some kind of terms to maybe join all these communities together. It reminds me a lot of the start of season 9 and what Rick was trying to do, building the bridge and everything to kind of unite all the communities. Obviously we saw how that went, but it feels very much like that kind of thing. But this new additional element of the Commonwealth and the power that they clearly have and the firepower that they clearly have, the influence they have, it's kind of a whole different kettle of fish, even from what Rick was trying to achieve. Before we got taken away in a helicopter. So yeah, I do like the idea of Lance trying to desperately just hold all this together to impress Pamela. I like Pamela just kind of seeing through the bullshit a bit with him. I do think what it comes down to is, he has this quest for recognition and power of his own, influence of his own. I feel like he thinks he's undervalued, and that's kind of causing an internal struggle in himself. But I think as time goes on, that's probably going to turn into proper resentment for Pamela and for anyone who doesn't quite, follow suit with what he's planning. Maggie could be another kind of target for that, I would assume, since she turned down the offer here. And, you saw the look on his face when she said no, because that kind of loses 2 of the 3 communities he was trying to bring in. But yeah, I do like Pamela's little World's Tour, basically, Lads on Tour, just going from all these locations, just getting a bit more of a sense of Pamela herself as well. Again, I think she's someone who enjoys the influence and the power she has, and I liked that Maggie very openly just challenges that, and she was kind of saying, well, we're all equals here. You have a nicer house than anyone else. You do this, you do that. And they're talking about reshaping the world and changing the world, and certainly Lance's as well. I think it's interesting that Pamela's way of running things is very much to keep things, or have a world order the way it was. The top dogs in their nice houses, everyone else kind of slumming it, which is very much how the world was before. Everything happened. So it's not really changing the world per se. It's just going, she's kind of forcing it to be the way it was, and I don't know if her intentions for that are particularly great. Just as Lance's intentions for what he's trying to do, uniting all these communities, there's a real selfish drive to them, I think. I'm pretty sure Pamela was pretty bang on the money then, and he didn't like that. I don't think he liked being called out in that way, and taking out his frustrations in that final scene then when he was shooting those things. Because if he does have power over anything, he has power over those walkers, because, blow to the head, they're done. That kind of probably makes him feel a bit powerful. That's him just hyping himself back up, I guess, to carry on and renew his fight, to try and get some more power and impress Pamela any way he can. So yeah, again, Lance is becoming a really interesting character, I think. I do enjoy you know, the second part of the season in particular has really focused on him a lot. And, you know, yeah, I enjoy what he's bringing to the fold. I'm hoping that's not all they do, because, you know, it's the final season. I would like them to focus on characters we've known for, you know, 6, 7, 8 seasons by this point, and not just be like, here's a whole episode just about people we've met this season, you know? But I think, you know, to make this kind of final storyline really pay off with the Commonwealth, you do need to know the key characters involved. So an episode like this, I think, makes a lot of sense. And I do like how they kind of carried that out, and just the whole politics of it all, the negotiation behind it all. I think an episode like this really showcases how far the show has come, and how it's had to like move with the times, and the fact, you know, they've done time jumps and things have to just naturally progress as time goes on in the apocalypse. You know, they have to simply get better. You know, you think season 1, they're still learning like the trick to cover themselves in guts, and it's just about survival in those early seasons. And then, maybe, you know, Herschel's farm is where we can settle down, and then that all falls apart. Maybe the prison is where we can settle down. That all falls apart when the governor gets involved and everything. And then they're on the road for a bit in season 5. Then they find Alexandria. Then Negan and the Saviors got involved. And then the Whisperers get involved. You know, it's just all that escalation. Now the Reapers, and now the Commonwealth. So I think an episode like this, you know, you can't imagine watching an episode of season 1 where it's just them kind of trying to survive on the streets. You know, the whole kind of slow descent into madness that Shane goes through and everything. You know, Laurie's pregnancy. You can't imagine an episode like that show. You know, there's going to be an episode of this show eventually when you're watching season 1 or 2. That's just kind of all the political negotiations of like all these communities together. This is something that you can only do, you know, after 11 seasons and all that build up and everything. So I think an episode like this really showcases how the show has evolved and changed from just surviving, like it was in those earlier seasons, to something more than that. Because, you know, this group that we've been following for 11 seasons, they can't just be as bad at dealing with walkers and stuff as they were in season 1, because they've had, you know, like years and years of experience with it by this point. It would be completely unrealistic to imagine that they still really, really struggle with that kind of thing. So then, you know, the show has to move and change and evolve. And I'm sure the comics is, you know, similar in that regard. And that's why, you know, they have to introduce new threats, new bigger threats every time. And then this Commonwealth thing. So I do like that side of things. I think the whole Commonwealth story, you know, it's another community that people, you know, the people we've been following may be at odds with, per se. But it's not, it doesn't feel the same as like the Saviors, here's this group of baddies to fight. The Whisperers, here's this group of baddies to fight. It's much more deeper and complicated than that, because it's like political rather than just like a physical confrontation thing. We kind of had that with the Reapers, but I think that's sort of done now. So now this is like the real focus, and I do like that this episode showcases that and shows that, you know, 11 seasons on, you know, The Walking Dead is a very different show to when it started. But I think that's a good thing, because it kind of reflects how the times have changed, and there is a clear evolution there in terms of the story, as well as how the characters and stuff have changed so much, which I think this episode also does a great job of showing. You know, I think seeing Eugene in this, you know, you think of how Eugene was when we first met him, and Rosita when we first met her, you know, she was kind of pretty repulsed by Eugene a lot of the time. And now, you know, that scene with them just talking on the bench, you know, is really sweet, and I like that it's showcasing that friendship between them. And that it's not so weird anymore, because he doesn't really have feelings for her anymore, because potentially this thing's kicking off with Max. And I liked the chemistry between Eugene and Max, actually. I wonder how much they tested in like auditioning, because it's kind of fine if Eugene and fake Stephanie maybe don't quite have the on-screen chemistry, because it's kind of the point of it. It's not meant to be real. But it could be that fear where like you could feel it a bit more with Eugene and fake Stephanie, and when Max is revealed to be who he's actually talking to, if the chemistry on screen isn't as strong, it's like, oh, that seems a bit weird now. But I do like that it felt very genuine and natural between the two of them. I like them bonding over, you know, his book in the end and kind of pushing through. I will say, I don't think Max had as much right to be pissed off with him as she was. You could have told him, you know, oh, you look so happy, so I didn't get involved. And I just kept my head down. Like, what? I know she doesn't want to get in trouble or anything, because if they found out that she was using that radio and everything, she would have gotten massive trouble. But, you know, it's weird that she just sat by and let that happen, and then when the truth comes out, she gets pissed at him for it. Just seems odd, you know. Some people just have a hard time with like recognizing voices and stuff, you know. People may not do very well at like recognizing people's names or remembering people's names unless they have a face they can assign it to and they picture that. Otherwise people might struggle, you know. It's a very different kind of thing. And I think Eugene's very much kind of that way inclined. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he's kind of somewhere on the autism spectrum, I think. Is kind of how they've approached his character. I think he was kind of talking a bit about that in this one. And he has struggled to read people and read situations and stuff in the past, so that kind of leans into why maybe he was fooled by fake Stephanie for as long as he was. And still would have been, you know, they could have easily still kept that up. But, yeah. So I did think it was a bit weird for Max to get quite so angry about it, but hopefully things are kind of smoothed over with that and they can kind of try and build something genuine there now that it seemingly is all out in the open. So I do like that, because I think that's a quite sweet pairing. And I think after everything Eugene's gone through with this whole situation and him finding the Commonwealth in the first place, you know, kind of his connection with Max is kind of what led to this whole story happening when they started talking to each other. So I'm hoping ultimately it does pay off, and you know, it's not like the Commonwealth and getting involved with them gets everyone killed, because it's like, God damn it, Eugene. But hopefully he kind of, it all does work out for those two. So I did like those scenes in particular, with them starting to maybe make that connection properly. Hopefully something can be built from there. And the scene with Eugene and Rosita, she was like comforting him and saying, you know, woman for you still out there. And yeah, I liked him as well talking about how when we first met him, you know, he was lying to Rosita and Abraham about who he really was. You know, he wasn't a scientist after all. It was just a way of him being able to survive and have people to stick by to protect him. And he's kind of been on the other end of it this time around. I do think that's kind of an interesting thing for his character. Particularly, you know, that was his story when we first met him. This is going to be one of his last storylines because the show's wrapping up. So I do like that kind of cyclical nature of that. So that was really cool. I enjoyed that very much. And the stuff with Ezekiel was also really nice. Ezekiel's one of my favourites. I really like Ezekiel. So I'm hoping surgery and everything for him goes okay. I'm glad that he very quickly sussed that Carol had something to do with him getting that boost up the list and him getting that treatment straight away. And I did think, actually, I was quite afraid that he was just going to be like, no, you know, we need to stick to how the natural order of it is going. You know, people are above me on that list, they should get treated first. Because he's very selfless in that way. He wouldn't want to kind of take a chance that someone else shouldn't have gotten. But I did like Carol kind of talking him around from that. So I'm sure there are some people in the Commonwealth like Sebastian who's just an absolute arse. And I just like her belief that he's just such a good man, and his actions, you know, towards Carol and everyone over the past couple of seasons has led to her, you know, making that choice for him. Like, I'm saving your life because you deserve it, because you are a good person. So I did like that quite a bit. But I am glad at least Ezekiel still made the choice to kind of have the operation and everything, knowing that Carol had kind of done stuff to get there. And it's not like she necessarily did that shady-ish stuff. You know, it's not like she killed anyone to get him off the list so that Ezekiel could bump up in the rankings a bit. Season 4 or 5, Carol probably would have done that and had no second thought about it. But again, character development, we love to see it. So yeah, I really liked those kind of scenes as well, and Jerry just cheering him on, being the absolute best friend goals. I love Jerry. So that was cool. Hopefully that's going to be okay, and Ezekiel will kind of get better now. I'm scared they're going to do the classic kind of TV show thing where someone's like ill or something, they get cured, and then something else kills them. You know, I feel like he's going to walk out of the hospital like, hooray, the operation was a success, and then a tram's just going to go boom. Because that seems like something that would happen. Same with like Rosita being like, I guess I am excited for the future. You might as well just like paint a little mark on your chest saying, shoot me. So that also makes me nervous when they do that kind of thing. It's like Noah in season 5 when we actually got a reference to that as well, because he talks to Reg in season 5, doesn't he, Noah? And we saw a picture of Deanna and Reg in this episode. I like that Pamela kind of knew Deanna. That's a nice little reference, kind of wink, wink, nod, nod. Remember these guys from season 5 and 6? But yeah, he was talking to Reg in season 5, wasn't he, Noah? And he was like, oh, I'm so excited for the future. I could do this now. I could maybe be an apprentice in this. And he's making plans for the future. Cut to 25 minutes later when he's in that revolving door being torn to pieces. So I'm scared that's the route they're kind of taking. Cause we haven't had like a big death in a while, I feel like. So I feel like something's got to give soon. And we're going to get that. I feel like maybe that's more so near the end of this final season, because that's probably going to be quite brutal in who we lose. But you never know, we might be pleasantly surprised by it. Either way, I did enjoy, everything with, the Eugene stuff and all of that, the Ezekiel stuff, that was all good. And yeah, Maggie just kind of holding her own. And I think in a way, that is that stubbornness of, I will allow my community to keep starving just because I, as the leader, don't trust you. I can get some people maybe being annoyed at that. And, like Diane, she was like, good for you, I respect you, Maggie, but I'm going to head out. I'm going to the Commonwealth because they have ice cream, bye. And that would be me. And I think the difference is, Maggie still lets those people go that don't want to stick around. She's still like letting them go back to the Commonwealth, even if she herself won't go because she doesn't trust it. And after everything that's happened over 11 seasons, don't really blame her for not trusting a new community, because when has that ever really worked out for them? Maybe once or twice in 11 seasons. But there's also going to be like something's got to give at some point. You do need to ask for help at some point. So maybe Maggie will get to that point eventually. But we also know from the flash forward at the mid-season premiere, her and Daryl are going to be at odds eventually at the gates of Hilltop about something, and maybe it's going to be to do with this. And who knows? But I'm sure that's going to be something we build to fairly soon. But yeah, I can get where Maggie's coming from with that, but I also am glad that she just lets people kind of leave. The Commonwealth, once you're in there, for the most part, like the normal citizens of the Commonwealth, they don't leave by the sounds of it. And like what Mercer was talking about, is like, I have my job, I have my role to play, and that's that. It seems like he doesn't have much of a life outside of just wearing that orange armour and doing his thing. It seems like the Commonwealth's very restrictive and kind of smothering them in that sense. I feel like if people told Pamela or told Lance, like, oh, we're going to head out on our own now, we're going to do our own thing, I can't imagine them letting them go, whereas Maggie did let these people go and do their own thing. So that's probably the difference there, but we'll see. I don't trust Pamela and Lance at all. I think they, very, very shady, dodgy people, at worst, probably. So, yeah, we'll see how it all plays out with that. But I really liked Mercer in this one as well. He's rapidly kind of growing amongst my favourites of the new characters we've met this season. His connection with Princess was always a lot of fun anyway, but yeah, I think him and Daryl are kind of forming a friendship as well and having that mutual respect. And I think Mercer he's not blind to the faults of the Commonwealth and the cracks in, the Commonwealth ceramic vase, if you will. That's a weird thing to compare it to, but hopefully you can go with it. So I did enjoy being like, Commonwealth isn't perfect either. So he's very aware of the kind of the flaws that it has, and I think that could lead to maybe, if there is going to be this big uprising in revolution stuff, I think Mercer would side against the Commonwealth ultimately, especially if like Max gets found out for the whole radio thing and people try and punish her for that. I think he would be like, what, this needs to stop. I think he kind of sense that there's some sort of corruption there, and the fact that he's bonding with people like Daryl, and when he gives little Herschel his helmet as well, wholesome. I think they're kind of maybe setting that up for him, and that was my hope for that character, so that's cool. And yeah, I also enjoyed Aaron in this one. You didn't get too much of him, but I like that he's keeping a close eye on Lance, and I'm not sure if they seem to do on the surface level want the same thing, but I think Aaron's also kind of a bit aware, like, you're right there, buddy, you're okay there, Lance. Especially with that last scene, he was just shooting people, being like, we're going to change the world, Aaron, we're going to change the world. He's probably like, put the gun down, Lance. So we'll see if he has anything to say about that, but he's still holding his own on some certain things, and he stands up for himself and Alexandria, which is all very well and good. So that was great. I think that's kind of all the key things in the episode to talk about, really. But a really good kind of exploration of, you know, here's where it all stands right now. This is where everyone's at in terms of like building a future where they could all these communities could form together. You know, we know who's on whose side, who's not. So it's kind of laying the groundwork, I think, to properly delve into that more and see, you know, who's going to break first, who's going to force the others to break, you know, what conflicts will arise from this. I mean, it very much felt like a setting the groundwork, moving the chess pieces around the board kind of episode in that sense. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds, what goes horribly wrong, I'm sure, how it's all going to topple down at some point, you know, what Lance is really going to do about this whole thing, what Maggie's ultimate decision is going to be, you know, what's everyone else going to do and where they're going to stand on it, what on earth the end game for the show is going to be. No idea. But I am excited to find out regardless. But yeah, a really good episode overall. I look forward to seeing what they're going to be doing with the rest of the season now, because we're halfway through the season. There we go. 12 episodes left, and that's it. So still plenty of room for a lot to go down, and I'm sure it will. But yeah, that is going to be everything for now. So until my next reaction, thanks for watching.